Okay, and I will.
Well, hi, and welcome to the May. Do you believe it's May verse virtual reading? I know this year's just flying by, and it's still, at least in Southern California, just as cold as it was in February. Almost.
Wow.
So I'm wearing my black leather jacket. That gives me a good excuse.
Perfect. It's perfect
Definitely.
dress attire for today. Well, we have two wonderful features, Suzanne Lummis and Tim Seibels. It's not every day that we blow away the poetry world with a feature like this one. So we're going to start with Suzanne, and I'll introduce her. And then after our features, we'll have a limited open mic. And it seems as though, at least so far, most of the people who put themselves on the open mic didn't show. So I may have some spots. We'll see when we get there. Suzanne Lummis's poems have appeared in 3 Knopf's Every Man's Library Pocket Poets anthologies, in noted literary journals around the US and in the New York. Her most recent book, Open 24 Hours, won the Blue Lynx Prize and was published by Lynx House Press. Her reviews and critical essays have been published in Los Angeles Review of Books, the LA Times, another Chicago magazine, and are forthcoming in Verseville and elsewhere. Her defining essay, the poem Noir, Too Dark to Be Depressed, appeared in the now retired Malpais Review. Currently, she's editing a special noir feature for the international literary journal Pratique. Take it away, Suzanne.
Okay, and Tim has a terrific poem in this upcoming issue of Pratique, which will feature noir poems and noir fiction, noir memoirs, things like that. So speaking of noir, I think I will stick with the theme, and I will read a noir poem. This is called Noir Confession with Evasions. And the premise for this, which just came to me, I can't explain how. The speaker has gone into the police department to the detective to confess. And now that she's sat down, she struck a deal. She struck a deal with the prosecutor. And now that she's set to confess, she keeps avoiding it, changing the subject every time she comes to the point where she's going to, she somehow doesn't. But at the same time I was writing this poem, I was reading a book on grammar, some of the finer points of grammar, which then you will notice wind their way into this poem, noir poem with confession with evasions. The story I'm about to tell, it's not true. And that's the straight up truth, except for some parts that are. So, okay, I lied. This friend, she needed a hard pack of L&Ms, a gun that wouldn't jam, and a man that's, strong jaw, broad shoulders, with brains as tough as he looked, but in the right way. And funny. Why not? She could use a good laugh. Okay. Now we're in real time, present tense, the now of it ain't over yet. He feels her gaze on him, the way neon light looks at a shiny car, the way a dislodged gem stares at the hard moon. He doesn't want to get involved. He just wants. The crime is as good as committed. And now for the pluperfect past, so needy and imperfect. She had needed to bankroll her life, a life that had not been going to be cheap. It was all about something, but this something kept slipping away like a dream. You know, the way those small atoms, the dreams break apart and re-enter the atomic age. She needed to finance these words. And like the mugs say, words like hers don't come cheap. Sex, like being pushed from a high window. I made that up. Like it? How much? Half moon, quarter moon, came then the night of no moon. It cameth. But really, you want the truth? Crime or no crime, caught or slipped out of there, running like raggedy water. There's no escaping the moon. Obviously, it worked out. Clearly, it all went wrong. Now, I'm going to read a poem that's a little bit melancholy. It's melancholy. If you think that in this poem, this is my favorite short one that I'm going to read for you all today. And if you think you are hearing rhyme, slant rhyme, off rhyme, assonance, consonants, you're not losing your mind. You're not crazy. You really are hearing those things. And the title is the opening line. Those poets who write about loss don't tell the whole story. How all night in your sleep, half sleep, you throw your net out toward that place it was last seen, lost thing. It drags the parched ground, comes home with nada, which you must add to your larder. Nil queen, nothing on nothing, a haunting. If only you could capture two fish, two silvery slippers to try on for size, then walk away across water, start clean. All night you cast, and its fall threadbare makes a song on the empty air, the starry net of your wanting. My favorite poem when I was a little kid, I loved that poem, Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod. Remember that Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod one night sailed out in a silver shoe. And all night they cast their net to catch the stars. And God, I think that was my major influence as a poet, actually. All right, so I promised somebody, by the way, everybody, I just want to mention that Connie Forsland is here, even though she is somewhat incognito back there in the darkness, and she is a really fine actor, and she played professional. I mean, she does a lot of movies, TV. She played Marilyn Monroe in a biopic so many years back. And we were talking about Marilyn Monroe. So there's a Marilyn Monroe motif going on here. Also a political motif, because Mark Petrie over there donated some money to a political cause today. So I'm going to donate this poem to those four criminals who attacked the Capitol and just got the longest sentence this made at my day, or at least my morning when I read that, the longest sentence of any of those bums who attacked the Capitol. They got 14 years, a couple of them did, and were they managed to make the conspiracy, seditious conspiracy charge stick. And it's very difficult to get jurors to understand that charge. It's slippery, but they were convicted of that and got. So this is for you, you guys out there on your way to jail for 14 years or something close to that. And I will also tell you, it rhymes like a little ticky-tacky, rinky-dinky children's poem. And therefore, I had to come up with some excuse for it. And after the title, which is The Big Lie, I have From Nursery Poems for Adults, as if I'm working on a whole collection called Nursery Poems for Adults, which this is my only nursery poem for adults so far. And I wrote it actually before The Big Lie, that phrase it became au courant, as the French say. The big lie isn't. It's a lot of little ones, like a large misshapen spider that shrinks down some. When a horde of babies scramble, run off its back, tough for those babies in the hard world, the odds so long, their chances slim, but lies, I'd bet on them. The climate suits them fine, and wow, what a lot to eat, feed on. Hear the gobbling and the swallowing, and the mother of the lies, no, the daddy of the lies, he feeds on his following. But forget what I said about spiders. That metaphor is like crummy. Anyway, when did you ever see, and I'm counting horror, sci-fi, monster matinees, post-war through 63, with giant crabs and ants and that radioactive bunny that intimidates a town? Like I was saying, when did ever spiders, even in the movies, snare so many millions and take a nation down? Okay, that's that little ticky-tacky, winky-dinky, rhymey poem. And now I think I will read my last poem. This is my last poem, and it is it's a little bit longer. And I think I will then be coming in on my 15. I don't know, we'll make it and squeak this in about 15 minutes. All right. So this is from it used to be a tabloid like this. You can see all the noise it's making, called Askew, edited by Marcia de la O and Phil Taggart, and then it became a hardcover magazine. This is back when it was a tabloid. The first two sections of this, I wrote most of this in my 20s. Good heavens. And then the third section, quite some time later. So I think I'll pause between each section. Some stories. Oh, we had a last. Did anybody see the full moon last night? It was a big full moon. Tim did. Tim, but do you know there was supposed to be? I think there was an eclipse of the moon last night. But you saw that Liz Camfield saw the full moon. I always try to remember to go out and see the full moon. At this point, I tell myself, I don't know how many full moons I have left in my life. I'm sorry to depress the bejesus out of everybody, but it's true. You get it to a certain age and you go, how many full moons have I got left? And so, but apparently in some part of the world, they saw the eclipse, which I don't think we saw in LA. Some stories about the moon. If a woman lies naked in moonlight, she's asking for trouble. She'll dream of plains with riderless horses and craters sending off light. The winter night will seem uncannily warm. She will remember words she thought she'd forgotten and speak them in her sleep.
Recording in progress.
She'll sigh, she'll reach out for something, but it will be only the shining air she pulls into her arms. He always has something gold, a gold tooth, for instance, a tattoo of a candle flame, a gold watch with only one arm, and that one pointing at midnight. He knows 6 words of English: penumbra, eclipse, an equatorial tide, forewarned, and foreshadowed. He uses them sparingly. The shadow of his coat forms a map of a continent that is always in darkness. The shadows of his shoes seem furtive. They hide under his feet. His hands rest on his thighs, small mammals sleeping with one eye open. When he observes a woman, she feels his gaze, a coolness, as if she is walking half-dressed over miles of white sand. Later, she'll realize he was only a dream she woke from once. She had risen and walked to the window, noticed how silent the moon was, as if it were submerged in water. A well no one goes to. If she loved the moon a little, she'd walk in its shallow light. If she loved it to the fullest, she'd drown. In the shifting, inaudible music of night coming on, she returns home by foot, and the moon comes around. The round mirror in her purse signals from its bright and black sides. What trails behind her, she wonders, moving, flowing like malted milk bleached to a shine. She walks faster. What rose through its sheathing of mineral grains, feldspar, slides over shadows with a step like unsettled leaves following? Who from her past catching up with her? When she enters her room, she feels someone has been there or is there now, trailing a dark, sweet odor like licorice seed, like sexual confession, the leavings or portent. On the other side of the window, the moon drops from its vapors smooth with an edge licked away. And what happens next? Nothing. And nothing more. She is only another woman, alone in a rented room, wanting the unreasonable, the extravagant to burst like a cache of pirate treasure, stolen, spilling gold as lunar light. Just another woman like that. No doubt you've heard of such cases through rumors, the old stories. They live in cities, these women, and eat in coffee shops. For them, the earth is not enough. They want the moon. All right. That's all I got. Got nothing left.
Thank you very much. That was an amazing set of poems. And Tim is the one person I know who could follow that. If you want to unmute yourself, I'm going to introduce you.
All right, I'll do my best to follow that. We'll see.
Tim Seibels is the poet, former poet laureate of Virginia. He's an NEA fellow as well as a Provincetown Fine Arts Center fellow, and that's where we know him from. He's the author of 7 books of poems, including Fast Animal, which was a finalist for the 2012 National Book Award, and winner of the Theodore Redke Memorial Poetry Prize. That was followed by One Turn Around the Sun in 2017. His new and selected collection, Voodoo Libretto, which is wonderful and you should read it, was released by Etruscan Press in 2022. Take it away.
All right. Okay. I'll read some poems from the new section of the book. This is a poem that the title goes directly into the body of the piece, and it has an odd quirk in it. I've been playing with the idea of a poem being a character in the poem. I make reference to Funkadelic. Some of you may know who Parliament Funkadelic are. If you don't, you can easily YouTube them. They were a very interesting funk band from the 70s, mainly late 60s to 70s. I just mentioned them in this poem. I think that's all you need to know. I think everything else will be clear. With no hat, no shirt, no pants, the poem walks the early afternoon. Summer sun spots the odd shape on the road and offers a cloud for shade. The poem is headed downtown with its revelations, its beauty, all the intricate parts finally open to the general public, who, though they tried to deny it, have always wanted to see beneath the vintage clothes. The poem's previous modesty and stealth, its humility and restraint, its patient, soft-spoken invitations have served no one really. Not even the poem itself, which has always wanted the spotlight. The red carpet, the sequined gown, the top hat, velvet lapels, ruby slippers, all its big front teeth inlaid with gold. The first people the poem passes look away, look again, their hope swelling like a fresh bump on the head. One guy tries 911, but the 9 skips, then shimmies like a new disciple. And the brother's big fro bursts into cotton candy. The poem loves it, loves being out, being seen. The almost cool walk flips to a Denzel stroll. I'm kicking new flavor in your ear, it says unquietly, meeting the eyes of drivers who swerve, so sure they see what must be a mirage. A buck-naked angel rump-shaken beside the witless sprawl of their lives, their heads anointed with apocryphal music. The cars refuse the road, their horns reborn, scatting a fanfare of funkadelic clarinets. This is my body, the poem says. Take and eat. Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you. This is a villanelle. It's a blues villanelle. At least that's what I'm calling them anyway. And this is the discrete blues villanelle. Discrete blues villanelle. Mostly, I keep my terror discreet. Try not to think about death all the time. But sometimes I think I might die in my sleep. Got my eyes closed, but I might take a peek. Been telling myself that it's gonna be fine. That's how I keep my terror discreet. I do what I can to maintain my mystique. To be here or not, there's such a fine line. Whoever said I won't die in my sleep? Ever feel like your soul sprung a leak and wander around touching stuff like you're blind? My mom always kept her terror discreet. I try to be like her, that stoic, that sweet. Why not shut up and just scream like a mime? But how do you know who might die in your sleep? This war in Ukraine got me feeling oblique. I think I see why people pray all the time. They're trying to keep their terror discreet. Don't want to surrender, but I gotta retreat. I'll hide in the words that burn up my mind. How else can I keep this madness discreet? Just might give up and go live on the streets. Or get me a rose and sip a good wine. That way I'd keep my terror discreet. But what'll I do if I die in my sleep? Thank you. This is a poem. This is a poem called The Dollars. And it has an epigraph. The epigraph is, I'm all in, the dollars. Do they own you? Do they make you do whatever they want? Do they own you? Do you work and pay and work? Are you nervous? Is it hard to sleep? Do they got you? Was it hard to wake up? What about your hair? Does it keep happening? Are you doing your best? Do you need a little something? Are you dressed? Are you getting dressed? Are you almost dressed? What about your hair? Are you tired? Are you hard to wake up? What time is it? How about now? Do they need more? Do they make you? Did they make you over? Are you half dressed? Do they own you? Do you think what you're supposed to? Are you saving? Who are you saving? Are you nervous? Are they watching? Is it hard? Do you ever wake up? Do they own you? Do you wake up when they want you to? Are they everywhere? Are you on time? How about now? How about now? Do you do the work? Did you do the do? Did they do you? Are you trying to get dressed? Are you? Did you? Will you? Do they own you? Do they still own you? Thank you. All right. Here's I wrote this poem. It's called Either Way. And it's for Cornelius Eady. Some of you know who Cornelius Eady is. And I wrote this poem for him. I think there's not much I need to say about it. Either way, days when something grazes my shoulder, sunlight, sidewalk, the shadows sharp. The sky holds a cold, unbreakable blue that says, why look up here? Doesn't seem like so far back. Couldn't dance, scared of girls. I heard Smokey sing, going to a go, go, with that soft crystal in his voice. Pictures, music caught somewhere in my head. I'm sick of memory. My younger self still inside, wanting a way out of this, who I am now. This busy all the time, this itch, middle of my back. But who was that kid in the basement, all alone with the miracles, moving his feet? The orange couch covered in plastic, black marks on the beige linoleum. Something about solitude, if you can stand it, makes you feel wise. The voice in your head talking its way somewhere, pressing you to believe what it says. And though you can't remember when, you grow into it, or you don't. Each thought breaks into the next, keeps on, turns back. Either way, you don't ever really understand. Just as you get used to the snow shingling your hair, your idols, one by one, begin to leave. Their old tunes fill the coffee shops and gently bob your head. What is it that your life forgot to mention? Hum a few bars, you say. Thank you. And I'll close with this poem. Don't want to go on too long. Okay, yeah. I'll close with this one. Anyway, this is the new and selected. That's what I'm reading from. I realize you can't see it, of course. That's it right there. Anyway. It's called Amusement Park, this last poem. It's a kind of allegory, I suppose. Amusement Park. Shuffling along, shouldering softly through the crowd, you don't remember the admission or planning to come. The rides look new, but it's mostly the paint. Every day the sun disappears and reappears as if unsure of the situation. Your parents used to talk about being young once. Now you wonder what they really wanted to say. Shadows scratch the sidewalk. Popcorn, hot dogs, pizza, aromas stoke the breeze. Of course, fear takes the air too, like the kind of perfume you only notice when it's gone. You told your friends, I'm sick of this shit. But somehow, here you are, back in line, itching for the wicked flea, a ride famous for jumping the tracks. But the whole park is like that. Even the cross-eyed calico creeps low to the ground, as if ready for some bad surprise. Worrying this way, the cat is a lot like the people who come here to undo their daily lives, built on hard work and scary news and bigotry, which usually moves around disguised as someone else. Wherever you turn, women, men, almost every hue, some skin so dark it holds a hint of stars, other faces white as paper, cinnamon gold, cocoa with a kiss of brass. Of course, the fear is shared unevenly with all these colors and the history they recall. But the people remain lovely, enticing, a smorgasbord ready to be consumed. And though strangers exchange harmless glances, each suspects the rest of playing a part in a story that seems impossible to explain, like the park itself, both natural and not, both deadly and full of fun. The crazy crook is the scariest, guaranteed to remix your mind, the neon wings. Some get on with glee, some with stolid faith, but you go half doubting, half hoping it'll be all right, like your parents said, though you haven't seen them on any rides. Its height is legendary. The loop-de-loop's ridiculous. Your friends believe it's the one ticket worth fighting for, that long first climb. The haphazard twists and dives, the whoops, the shrieks, and every time somebody yelling, "Look, Ma, no hands." Maybe the loudmouth is a superhero ready to pretend that the courage that might make death and his shiny badge back off. Or maybe he's just another dumb chump begging to be noticed in a world that repaints and forgets, refuels and drives on. Sit your simple ass down, you snap, while the crazy crook rolls over those bone-bending swerves that snatch the riders back to their busy, befuddled, stampeded lives, out of hand and harder, faster, as if some cranked up kidnapper has everyone locked in his trunk and won't stop stomping the gas. The days blur. Each month honks by like a V of Canada geese. You spin around. Your friends keep testing their new knees. How did you get used to this? When did you forget how to sleep? What made your parents play certain words over and over? Job, success, love, responsibility. And where, exactly where did they go? Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you. Such an honor to read with you, Suzanne. Such an honor. You do not know.
Tim, I'm just sitting here thinking, I hope to head up the powerful echelons of the government. Somebody has the sense to make you US Poet Laureate pretty soon. Wouldn't Tim be good? No, wouldn't he be good? I mean, you have all the right qualities.
Thank you.
Are they taking nominations?
But don't you think, Suzanne, we could be co-laureates?
I could I be like sort of a VP kind of,
No,
junior
co-laureates.
laureate.
We'd be co-laureates. We would run the whole place.
But really, and I'm saying that because the way you're poetry reaches out to all humanity, and it is trying to understand rather than coming from a place of knowing everything and then sort of dictating to people how it should be. There's a certain
thank you.
type of polemical poetry where it's as if
Thank
the
you.
poet knows everything and they're telling you. And
Okay.
your poetry has this exploring and questioning quality that I just find so beautiful, and it makes it unpredictable. You don't know where it's going from moment to moment. I really hope you get to be U.S. Poet Laureate.
Well, that would be
Anybody
great.
did anybody want to take any bets? I'll bet that he's going to be. And see, nobody here's going to bet against you, though.
No,
Got
no,
nobody
we
to
would
bet
never,
with.
we would never do that.
Yeah,
Well,
nobody's
well,
going to
then,
bet against him.
That's lovely. You're all lovely, but who knows? I'm just grateful to read poems to people who care about poetry, and especially grateful to read with you, Suzanne. That's all I'm saying. I will say
That's
nothing
how
else.
I feel. That's exactly how, this is very cool. Thank you, Robbie. And
Yeah, Robbie, it was
Robbie
great.
brought
Thank-
us together.
Yeah.
So
That was
let's
great. I
give
love
Robbie a
to
big
read
hand.
together.
Where's my reactions? I can do a little heart. There's my heart. Look,
Yeah, that's
I
right.
love these
They're
little
hard. You can do
reactions.
that. I
I
don't know
can
how to
do
do
a
it, but
thumbs up. I love the thumbs up. Okay.
I'm doing a Cheshire cat here with my background. I keep
I'll
this.
put a heart up too,
Yeah, I love those little
and a
reactions.
thumbs up.
You can even do like a what is it for New Year's or something like that?
Oh, yeah. You can
That
get
is-
that thing. You can get the thing. Yeah.
That's right. I had
Yeah,
a
it
lot
was
of
great.
fun with
But-
those.
But thank you, Robbie. I can only repeat what Suzanne has said. We're really grateful that we got to be together. And thank you for all of you for spending some of your Saturday morning. It's afternoon here, but morning where you are. Thank you for spending it a little bit with some poems and with some poets. And I'm sure many of you are poets, so it's grateful to be among friends.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for getting together and reading like this. You gave us all a special treat that everyone who wasn't here will be able to enjoy too, because we're recording it and we'll post it on the website.
And
Probably
there's
later.
Connie Forsland disappearing. Connie, tell us what that movie, when you played Marilyn Monroe, what was that? Can we still find that movie? That
I don't think it's available. It was like 40 years ago.
But anyway, she was very good in it.
It's good to have
Great.
the royalty of LA.
Oh,
and
please.
The rest
was
of
it?
Royalty of poetry.
What was it called?
It was part of a miniseries that Garson Kanin wrote, a book called Moviola. And there were 3 episodes, one about Marilyn, this early part of her career with the agent who was the architect of her career, who was in love with her and who died. And then one was about the Scarlett O'Hara Wars, and the other one was about Greta Garbo and John Gilbert. It's a long time ago.
And Connie also played Gidget in the
No,
not
no.
Gidget. What was it? Not Ginger. Ginger in the island. What
And
is
the Harlem Globetrotters and Gilligan.
that she
Oh, get
played
out of here.
Ginger?
What?
She was Ginger in
Yeah, because Tina Louise didn't want to do it, and I'd done Marilyn, so they asked me to.
Oh, wow. Well,
Ginger
I'm gonna
White.
try to find that stuff.
Well, that's out there somewhere.
All right.
Well, we
I have
do
to talk about this, what an inspiration this morning has been. Both of you are just such amazing poets. I'm so inspired. It's like, it inspires me as an actress to hear these condensed emotions. It's like I want to capture that somehow with the things I'm working on. So thank you so much for inviting me to see this wonderful art of both of you. And you should
wonderful to have you. Please come back anytime.
Okay, thank you.
We meet here every month, not on the same day, but if you send me a friend request, then you can see the posts when I put them out. I host
that's
2
so-
virtual reading series, and so there's lots of poets, not all this wonderful, but some pretty wonderful people too.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you everyone for coming. We now have an open mic. that isn't, it's really a misnomer. It's not exactly open because people had to sign up beforehand. But I do have 3 spots open for the first 3 people to ask for them who aren't already on the list. So, okay, I see Margie Gaffron waving. So that's number 1. And Victoria is number 2. Oh dear. I'm not doing them in order. So I saw Margie waving, and then Kika is first on the list. And Mark is second on the list. I'm sorry about Victoria, because you're last on the list. So in case one person isn't here that I think is here, then you're next. Okay. But our first person is somebody I overlooked accidentally last month, and that's Elia Braden. So Elia, why don't you kick us off? And it's 2 short poems or 5 minutes, whichever comes first.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Roby. It's really great to be here and wonderful to see Suzanne and Tim, both of whom I've had the incredible honor to be able to study with. Tim, I don't know if you remember from Palm Beach Poetry Festival many
Oh yeah, back then, yeah, back in the good days, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
I saw you with Suzanne at the Skirball several years ago.
Oh yeah, I love that.
That was amazing when we all got together to read.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So this poem is actually was written in Suzanne's class that I recently took with her, and is inspired by her noir writing, and is going to be part of her noir issue as well. And it's called P22, Looking for Love Under the Hollywood Sign. And for those of you who don't know who P22 is, P22 is a mountain lion, or actually puma, that came from the Santa Monica Mountains and ended up in Griffith Park, and had his own territory there for many, many years, but also was by himself there. And many neighbors in the Griffith Park area captured him on security cameras, and National Geographic photographed him. He is quite well known here. So this is a persona poem. P22, Looking for Love Under the Hollywood Sign. Sure, I'm famous, but that doesn't keep loneliness from crossing the 405 to find me, setting her traps on the boundaries of my small stamping grounds, haven or prison. Just ask that koala at the LA Zoo, so complacent in her bamboo sanctuary before danger stalked in on padded feet, the glint of moonlight on my jagged teeth, mayhem flaring like neon, then only dark. They may swoon over my mug on Nat Geo's cover, ogle my profile in the LA Times, love me on Instagram, follow my 6 Twitter feeds, track my every move by satellite, investigate the skeletal offerings of my sated hunger, declare a day of recognition. But has anyone considered a dating app for pumas? How they twist in the mystery of my habitat. Picture me winged as Nike, swift shadow levitating over the 101. Every freeway may demand a toll, but I'm nobody's sacrifice. Yes, we pumas are solitary cats, but years without a single romp in the brush stokes my appetite for any beating heart. They can't hear my desperation as I pace the borders of my existence, where even darkness thrums with speeding death. I've scratched entreaties in the dirt, anointed piles of leaves with my pheromone elixirs, even deigned a chirp or purr, but not a single she has intersected my GPS coordinates. I've heard that loneliness is the new epidemic, erupting more devastation than Kaluea. They call me the cat that changed America, but have I? 11 years on this planet and still alone. Same me, same America. Thank you. Thanks. That's all I'm going to do, and hand it back to Roby. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elia. Our Our next reader will be Margaret Duda. You need to unmute, Margaret.
Okay, I have a book of poetry called I Come from Immigrants that should be out either the end of May or in June. And they are narrative poems about my unusual family and childhood, bilingual and bicultural childhood. But I also try to take you back to my parents in Hungary. And this is the first one. And it's called Fostering to Freedom, 1906. For the first 4 months of her life, my mother, the product of a love affair between a Budapest governess and a Czech policeman who never told her he was married, languished in an orphanage until one day, Rosa, dark-haired, pulled back into a bun, dressed like a simple countrywoman, set out on her yearly pilgrimage to the large Catholic orphanage after visiting her sister in Budapest. She slipped into a gray-walled room filled with white metal cribs and numerous sleeping children, each protected by a wooden cross hanging above their bed. Rosa and Laszlo had already taken 2 boys and a girl, all between 2 and 5. They were theirs now, children she could not conceive, but souls she could foster with love. Clothed in a black habit, an old nun entered the room, smiled at Rosa, then pointed to a 4-month-old, their newest arrival. Rosa insisted, Laszlo said they could take no more. The nun informed her the baby, my mother, could only be fostered because my grandmother bore her out of wedlock, then escaped to America, promising to send for the child as soon as she could. Rosa approached the iron crib with metal bars like a prison as my mother gazed up at her, then raised her tiny arms as if begging to be released and held. Leaning over the bed, Rosa drew her close. Nestled in her arms, the infant smiled and sighed. Rosa recognized a gift from God and hoped Laszlo would understand. As the aging, decrepit train rattled and chugged its way across the great Hungarian plain, Rosa rubbed the infant's back and softly hummed a lullaby. In the village, the child became known for her intelligence, loving ways. Rosa prayed her real mother would forget her promise, but 17 years later, a ticket arrived to ship Mama, now called Margit, to America. Margit cried constantly, unwilling to leave the only mother she knew. Her heart breaking, Rosa reinforced her fledgling's natural instinct to fly off and fulfill her potential, convincing her that great prospects awaited her as ever generous Rosa shared her gift with future generations. And that was her. And I'm not sure if any of you ever heard Coming to America, but that was the one that followed it with my mother's trip to America. I don't have time to read that, right?
No,
Okay.
thank you so much. Our next reader is Jim Lewis.
Imagine that. I have to say, readings like this are the reason that I stay on as editor at Verse Virtual. This has just been fabulous. I'm going to follow Suzanne's noir and somber with a recent poem I wrote called Old Man. My father, who will be 94 this year, is failing, and he's in New Mexico, and I don't have constant contact with him. So thinking about him and about myself, this poem is called Old Man. I am an old man with three names, one from my mother's father, one from my own father, and one from a tortuous line of grandfathers. Don't bother looking up name meanings. They have no bearing on who I am, or will become. Likewise, I'm not sure they carry any weight from who I was. They are simply names I use to distinguish myself from you and him, and oddly enough, from every other person the internet identifies as having exactly those names, exactly in that order. However, the names are not the focus of the moment. Let's focus on the admission that I am an old man who knows what he wants and who knows equally that he will never have it. Tell me, compared to that, what importance is there in a name, or two, or three? Old men tell old jokes, wear old clothes, bury their fathers and sometimes a child before they exit silently, leaving things undone that their own sons will stare at uneasily, then walk away from. That's how it is with old men. We were young, now we're not. And no matter our names, no matter our dreams, it usually works out that our sons bury us, sometimes with tears, sometimes without.
Wow.
You want to read another one?
Oh, that's all for today.
Okay, thanks a lot. I haven't heard that one before. Our next reader is Gary Grossman.
Thanks. It's an honor to be here with everyone. This poem is called The 5 Stages of Poetic Grief, with apologies to Kubler-Ross. 1, denial. No, this can't be a good idea for a poem. Surely hundreds already have been written. This can't be a good idea. 2, anger. Screw it. I'm forging ahead, but this is so damn difficult, and I've been told not to use a thesaurus or Wikipedia. 3, bargaining. If I could just write one more publishable poem, I'll stop forever. I promise. 4, depression. Well, this isn't that poem. Ugh. I'm putting these pages in a drawer for at least a month. No, a week. No, a day. Okay, one last look. 5, acceptance. I've worked on this poem for 40 days, changed line order and breaks, metaphors and analogies, and it's still in the ICU. No discernible improvement. Time to see if someone will stoop to publish it.
Love it.
So, thank you. And this is called Low Self-Esteem. Second beer with a colleague friend, and I recount some slight. One more COVID-y a-hole sent shit my way. Open and shut, really, like the speeding frat boy who flips off the mom and stroller in the middle of the crosswalk. And damn, my dude begins spouting hypothetical excuses for this a-hole driver. Judge and jury both, though in truth, his knowledge of this sitch is thin and pungent as onion skin, other than the arrow I've shot verbally, which in truth always hits the bullseye. Yes, sometimes I do put on the goldest sunbeams, but why, given the A-list professorial and book success this dude has had, why does he not offer a friend the support that a tomato plant gets from a 1/4-inch steak? Something to the tune of, yeah, I totally get why you feel that way. Or, damn, that sucks. Hell no, it's pronouncements like, well, maybe he recently broke his toe and couldn't hit the brakes. And, well, maybe he was distracted by a recent fire ant bite. And suddenly I get that electrical zap of comprehension. and realize he's actually pulling the top sheet back on the bed of his soul. That this isn't some 2022 judge, not lest ye be judged comment, but the fact that his own cup of self-esteem contains just drops and stains rather than ounces. That within the entrails of his ego, he believes a refusal to judge the bad behavior of others means his own transgressions all possess get out of jail free cards. Or maybe it's just me.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
I identify with your first poem. Thank you very much. Our next reader is Margie Gaffron. You have to
I'm not fast. Okay. I'm so happy that I got a chance to read today, because these poems are in remembrance of a friend of mine who passed away on April 29th, 2019. When I met him, he was the husband of one of my ESL Chinese students. She did not want to learn English, and he had fairly good English. So he and I ended up being great friends, while his wife avoided me like the plague. This is for Xia Zhao Duan, October 15th, 1988, April 29th, 2019. Cancer dragon whispered, you kept moving, running down the soccer field, ball in your control. Cancer dragon, though, was only beginning with you. One slight touch to your back, you fell. The ground opened beneath your running feet as though to swallow you whole. But strong, graceful, instinctively you moved as you'd been taught. Light as wind, you contorted to miss the void. Feet attuned to earth and ready, this time prepared, unswerving, but doomed. You stand fast. Look this ancient monster in the face and smile. Okay, and this goes along with it. Warrior for Duan. When we knew he was dying, I gave him a piece of stone quartz. He had no religious affiliations. He was a scientist working on finding a cure for breast cancer. And so I said, Duan, you need something. And this will take you where you need to be. It's called Warrior for Duan. Excuse me, Warrior for Duan. Quartz stone in hand, powerful, graceful. Rise from ash, once more, embrace sky. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margie.
Thank you.
Our next reader is Kika Dorsey.
Hi, I'm going to read a poem. So I have an email list. If anyone wants to be on it, I send one poem a month. And this is the poem I'm sending out tomorrow. It's BC blind copy. And they tend to be seasonal. So this one is called May Crown. The wind is a pauper planning a revolution, a falling of willow branch, fence slat, nails, and broken buds of spring. I meant to dream of us running for the bus on the street next to the pasture, how we shout each other's names in the din of the wind, how we anticipate shelter and wheels below us, how we have somewhere to go. But instead, I lay in bed awake, listening to the whispering after I held our dog while he seized and died. And you said it was the wind. And I said, no, it was something else, but I couldn't make out any words. Then you left and I stayed in our home, feeling his absence while the wind knocked and groaned, and outside the willow bowed in the dark. The wind promises me new regimes where doors open to the buds that blind us in their light, where hush becomes husk, peeled to reveal kernels for the horses that lean over the fence so we can feed them while we wait for the bus in the dream I never had. You see, I miss you, and I miss the soft black and white fur of our dog. I could tell how heavy he was in your arms, how you struggled with his dead weight. And now the king and queen have fallen, and I feel their empty thrones in my spine and neck, the ache of all we left behind, while the pauper gathers fallen branches and promises this revolution will not devolve into terror. The horses in the dream I never had crane their necks toward me like an answer. The bus windows are dark. A whisper asks me to hush and listen. A May crown topples in the dark. Thank you.
Okay. I think last reader is Mark Petrie.
Hello. I'd like to start by reading a poem that just got in the current issue of Book of Matches, and it's called Santa Rosa Wilderness, 1987. Patches of light last winter's snow linger in June under pines at the trailhead at the end of a long dirt road. No set trail marked the way through the manzanita, only a self-made path where thorns tore pants and sleeves, slow going until the brush gave way to the desert mesa 400 feet above the canyon floor. I take my lunch, some water, and encounters with the archdruid to a rock overlooking Kauai ruins, where people lived 700 years ago next to a dry desert wash, where life-giving water once flowed. On the rock, on this mesa, in the middle of nowhere, listening to the sound of no noise, I read in silence most of the afternoon. And Elia, this is for you because you're up in Ventura County. This is from a collection I'm working on called Poems for the Anthropocene. And this is called Crossing the Light. Memories hit in the strangest places, intersections of public space and time, waiting for a light at a crosswalk at Prospect and Irvine in Tustin. I return to the crosswalk at Telegraph Road and Victoria Avenue in Ventura. It's the late 60s. I cross on my way to Savon to get an ice cream cone where I stood with my brother and sister, licking the 2-scoop 10-cent cone, taking in the traffic at the strip mall. I wait for the light at Irvine and Prospect, thinking how many times that traffic signal in Ventura changed, how many cars pass through that intersection, how oblivious traffic is to the passage of time.
If you don't mind, I'm going to read a poem and share a screen. And then that'll be it for today. Now I gotta find it. It was published just recently in McQueen's Quinterly, and it's called Interspecies Face Off. Do you see the image? I wrote it on a challenge by Jody Stewart. I posted this photo in my Facebook, and she said, "You ought to write a poem about this." So I did. Interspecies Face Off. After a photograph by Nate Ethan Isaac. All appetite, the wolf eel, not an eel at all, but a fish that sometimes reaches 8 feet, looks vicious, but like every other living creature, he's complex. His fearsome jaws convince us he's malicious, as likely to bite off a diver's nose as look at him. His body muscular as a wave. But we'd be wrong to think that. Those jaws are made for breaking through the tough exterior of crabs and urchins to reach the sweet interior we too savor. He's curious, does not fear our nets or hooks. That's his mistake. We're fascinated by wolf eels' nightmare faces, have dreamed up deadly aliens made in their image. But the eel itself is almost tame, can be hand-fed, rather like a dog. The most famous portrait of this creature tells more about us than it does the eel. You can almost smell its fetid breath, shreds of flesh caught between the front teeth, each the length and width of a man's fingers. Imagine how it felt to hold that body as it struggled to escape the burning air. The man seems to be calculating how many meals this eel will make, how he can parcel out the steaks and sell them to a shoreside chef. His hands give him advantages the eel lacks, at least on this side of the waves. Thank you so much, and thanks again to our features and to everyone on the open mic. I love you all and thank you for being here. It's such a pleasure to hear your work.
Thank you, Robbie. I was so
Thank
happy
you,
to hear
Robbie. Thank you, Kim.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks, Robbie.
This is great. Thank you.
Suzanne,
Awesome.
And thank you, Jim, for giving me this forum.
Suzanne, I just sent you a text.
So I think there were a couple of questions that people asked you, Tim, or at least one.
I wasn't reading.
In the way back there in the chat, someone asked, where did you most recently publish? So I don't plan to interview you, but you might want to answer that. And someone.
Great, I love that one. That was amazing. So it looks like him. We should send it to
Last
him.
time I published. I guess
What?
most recent place I published would have been, well, I just published this little chapbook called Something Like We Did. So it's a guy here who just loves to make books. So it's a very small chapbook. It's got 5 poems in it. So that would be my most recent publication. In a journal, I'd have to think for a moment.
Well, who published the chapbook?
A little press here, as I said, run by this one guy who likes to make books. It's called Catapult Press.
Oh,
But
yeah.
The last time I published a poem was in Crosswinds Journal.
Didn't I hear that Catapult was going out of business?
No, well, I don't know. This could be a different Catapult because this guy just publishes a couple of things here and there. He's not really he's not making his living that way. He's actually a high school teacher, but he just loves writing books. Yeah, I was a high school teacher too. For
I
many
teach middle
years.
school.
Okay, anyway, but this guy, yeah, he just does it because he just loves to make books. So it's not a business for him. He just does it because he thinks he just loves it. I mean, it's a mystery to me because it's hard work what he does, but he just loves doing it. He takes workshops and stuff just on his fun, just to see if he can learn something new about bookmaking. So that's the last thing I published. But the journal would have been, I believe, Crosswinds Journal. That was a while ago, actually, probably. I got some stuff out there. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's all out there in the ether.
Yeah.
I admire you people so much for all the publishing you do. It's beyond me. I don't seem to be able.
Margie, you just
Do
got to
it.
be too stubborn to quit.
That's it.
No,
Just
I have to be
persist.
willing to begin.
Just persist. Oh, you haven't.
Well,
You haven't begun yet.
okay.
Okay.
Now
There's-
there's a confession.
Well, does anybody else have any questions for either of our features?
Yeah, excuse me, Tim, where was your last poem published? The one about the amusement park?
Oh, it's in this book, Voodoo Libretto. It was originally published in the Beloit Poetry Journal, which is, I think, that's also your way. Beloit Poetry Journal, I believe, is that way, out northwest, is it?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
It's Wisconsin, I think.
Is it Wisconsin? Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't
It's
remember.
Wisconsin or Michigan or one of those upper Midwest.
It might be closer to you than it is to me, but yeah.
I'm from
I thought it was
Wisconsin.
Ohio.
There- no,
somewhere
there's
in the
Deloitte in
Midwest.
Wisconsin.
Fly
That
over
was the Beloit
country.
Poetry Journal first, but it's in the new section of this book.
And Tim has a poem forthcoming in
That's
Project,
right.
which will be published in the fall, a terrific, moody, haunting noir poem. And
Thank you.
Elga's poem on P22 will be in Pratik also.
Oh, cool. I like that P22 piece.
I
right.
know, it's got
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit of a noir mood about it. So I
Definitely.
thought I can just fold it into the others.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting to send stuff there.
Now those poems that
Yeah,
you
sure.
read, Suzanne, the last one, the long one, that is unpublished, or is that in the new book?
The one called Some Stories About the Moon.
Yes.
You know, that is published, but completely unavailable because it was published in a print magazine called Askew, way back when they were publishing it as a tabloid. And so it's impossible to get.
Send it to
Yeah.
Verse Virtual. Jim will publish it.
Absolutely.
Who will publish it?
Jim, this guy right
Jim
here.
Lewis, have you got a literary magazine?
That's what we're all here to celebrate.
I'm the editor for Verse Virtual.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll submit it to you then. I hope I don't get rejected.
Oh, republish
Bad
it,
chance.
by all means.
Yeah, people can't find it anywhere, and I really do like it. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it's a cool poem. I mean, all those poems were cool. I could go on and on, but that poem I thought was cool because it went through so many.
It's a
moods and
sequence
shifts.
poem in 3 parts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, it had some very nice shifts in it. I loved it.
Yeah. Do get Tim's new book, Voodoo. What was it? Voodoo.
Voodoo Libretto.
It's new
Voodoo
and
Libretto.
selected.
We're all reading it. Everybody's reading it in my Deep Poetry Knowledge group. A couple of Deep Poetry Knowledge people attended today.
Oh,
And
that's
we're
cool.
studying it. We're
I
gonna
wrote a review of it last year.
Yes, Robbie
in
reviewed
Rhino.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you wrote a review of it. Good for
Right.
you.
Is there a way to
I
get
read
a
that
signed
review.
copy of it? Is there a way to get a signed copy of it?
Of the book?
Yes.
Oh, I suppose. I mean, it
Oh,
might be a little-
sure.
might be a
Oh,
little
yes. Oh,
complicated.
yes, it's there. You can get it everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
online and Amazon.
No,
has it.
signed.
But he
The,
wants it signed. You could get a
Signed.
copy and send it to me. I could sign it and send it back to you. There aren't
That'd be
any
cool.
signed copies out there, I guess.
Or else you can come visit us, Tim.
Or I can
and-
come out there,
Oh.
sign it.
Yeah,
and
Very
hand
and
it to
then
you.
Mark
Happy
can come
Elizabeth.
visit my house.
Oh,
there you
who
go.
just published Liz just, oh God, I look so much better back then. How many years ago was that? Liz just posted a picture of me back when I would, looked like that instead of what I
Well,
look like
I'm
now.
going to get off the recording. Okay.
All right, my friends. Thank you so much. It was
Thank you
wonderful.
very much,
Okay, Tim,
everyone.
we'll be seeing